Hey YouTube, who's ready for the next episode of Dr. Goldwingstein's horror show? Alright, this one was a nail biter. It got super ugly and super scary. Time to do the front speakers. Back speakers are in, amp is in. It's all pretty solid back there. It's kind of tuned, not too bad. Time to do the fronts. So, this is what I came up with. It is not perfect. You still see some of the original pocket from what should have been a factory tweeter, which I can't find listed anywhere. The 400 watt amp will live down in there. Won't be accessible to adjust unless I remove the pocket, but I will be able to get to it with only removing the 4 screws in the pocket, pulling it out of the way. This was a nail biter. This was really scary, and I removed way more of the inner dashboard panel than I thought I would have to get this to come far enough forward. It's giant magnet behind it, and I'll show you one, to allow the windshield adjustment lever to move. It's still scraping along the side of the magnets, but it's not stopping it. So I originally started with a hole saw. Big mistake. Was a complete waste of time. I had to take it all out with a Dremel, and hopefully I can get this off easily with only one hand. Okay, the hole underneath is enormous. Let me get this off of here. And when you see how much of the material I removed, you're gonna kind of freak out about it probably, but I had to cut all the inner dashboard away until I could just put the speaker in from the front, because of the arm for the adjustment, for the windshield adjustment. It's pushing up against the side of the magnets. You see my first few experiments took a couple of good bites out of the paint on this. It's moving relatively freely now, but you can still feel it scraping a bit. But this does kind of just drop in this hole at this point, and you got to work it behind the speaker there. But you can get it in there, and it's going to work. Hopefully it's not too much weight to hang simply by its 2 screws and its bezel on the outer dashboard, but the weight is really going to be sitting also on here and wedged up against the other parts. It does hang a bit behind the 4-inch speaker. Gotta muscle that in there a little bit, but it does come far enough forward that it hangs out. The bezel squares up to it. It's not great. I wish it were better, but there were all sorts of recommendations on the internet about what kind of speaker you could actually put in there. I don't see one anywhere from Honda itself, not like a part listed anywhere or anything, so I don't even know why they put the original vents for a speaker there on the dashboard. They weren't going to just like offer you the parts, or at least tell you what the parts should be made like. So I've got to pull the amp back out of the hole. I get this out before it falls out. Sorry. I'm going to weasel this back out. Getting the amp down in here was a real fight because of this. I don't know if you can actually see it. That big fat harness right there, which goes to the CB, as far as I can tell. It's super thick, it's super hardened, it doesn't like to move at all, but once you get it pulled out of the way, you can slip the undersized amp in there, and it moves around. You've got some freedom of movement with it. So I'll be able to lift it up a little bit, shoot 2 screws in the front side of it, the front of the foot, and maybe put a Velcro patch on the bottom plate to stick to the side wall of the interfering, and that'll keep it from spanking around while I ride. But I'll be back when I get it all wired in. With the inner and outer dash open, I also loosened the cluster, the panel, the instrument cluster, to make getting my wires back and forth across it a little bit simpler, rather than trying to fish through some very narrow openings in there. And we'll see you, I don't know, in a day or two when I get it all wired up and running and tested. and then again at final assembly. So good luck, guys. If you're thinking about this, you might want to rethink it. Again, look at the size of the opening I had to cut out of that inner dashboard. A big part of the issue of why I had to cut so much away is this tapering shape that runs back towards the front of the bike was just keeping the whole speaker out. Between that and the adjustment arm for the windshield, it was just, and you can even see it's in the opening there. So you got to really cut low and wide, more than you would even begin to imagine. I tried with just a regular hole saw originally. I think it was 1 1/8, or 1 5/8 rather. And I had no hope of getting in that hole. So I didn't cut the outer dashboard until I had that speaker sitting all the way in place. The cut on the outer dashboard, I dremeled it. And even here you see I had to take it all the way down. This is going to be exposed. The magnet comes through most of it, so I'll probably paint the magnets black and then maybe put some gray silicone around it to seal it and kind of hide the fact that it's kind of a rough cut. I'll smooth it out a little bit. But that hole is just enormous, and it goes under the dash. Thankfully, you can't see it at all. Once the aluminum bezel's in place around the speaker, it's not going to be visible at all. It does get into the bigger opening, the bezel does, so you can't really avoid that if you're going to go with the only speakers that are really available to you without, just whatever months of research that just aren't really worth it, to get some cheesy factory speakers that can't push power, that will distort when hit with an amplifier. It's just not worth it. I wouldn't recommend doing this unless you're, half stupid like me, because there's no going back from this. If this doesn't work out for you in the long run, you're replacing everything. The inner cowling, the interfering, the outer dashboard, wood grain kit. I mean, you're looking at major repairs if you don't learn to live with what you come up with. So good luck if you try it. If you come up with, anybody's got better ideas, too late for me, but be careful. You're going to wind up doing a lot more cutting than you think, and the whole time you're doing it, you're just telling yourself, oh, I've gone too far. But yeah, that's a giant opening. It actually looks like that before you cut it. Oh, and there's the DBs I threw in there originally, like 2 weeks ago. But that's what it looks like. And this opening here for this speaker, this knockout, is really barely more than an inch across, an inch square. I don't know where you would find a speaker that small, and if you did, I don't know how worthwhile it would be to bother. Not to mention that once you put an amplifier on it, it's going to want to just distort like crazy. It's just going to be overwhelmed with power. So yeah, take out the whole corner of the dash. The nice thing is that the dash has all this other material here still, the inner dash, that keeps it solid. I mean, this has no movement to it at all. It's not weakened at all by it, really. I'm sure an engineer would say it is, but not really. You do have to also sacrifice one of the mounting screws from the 4-inch speaker. You got to trim off the framework and get rid of that before you can put that back in place down there. So yeah, if you try it, or if you go for it, try to find the smallest speakers you can find. The ones I've got now, again, they're advertised as 1-inch on Amazon. They show up, they are 1 5/8 across the cone. I don't know how these people are measuring these things. It's really frustrating the hell out of me. And the magnet on that is just enormous. It's probably close to 2 3/4 inches. Sorry guys, but the magnet is huge. I mean, there's nothing about this that is 1 inch. I don't even know what to say. But it will get in there. I can get it in there. I will get it in there. And it will work. And it will still allow me to adjust this once it comes far enough forward to meet the dash. There is a gap between the two layers of the dash. It's probably close to 1/2 inch, which is going to be right about where this thing is sitting now, with the speaker down. Okay, and that is going to allow this to still move, the adjustment to still move, which is not that important. I don't really adjust my windshield seasonally. I've got it tucked down and I leave it there. So I don't know, guys. We'll see in a few days. We'll tell you how it works out for us, and then I'm going to give you an overall review of the entire system. 2 Kenwood amplifiers, mixed speakers. Yes, I still want to get rid of those 4-inch Boss speakers, but I'm not worried about that for now. And we'll see you in a couple of days. Take care, guys. Safe riding, and everybody stay safe.